For years, the internet had made up its mind about Liv Morgan. They wrote the narrative, they spread it, they swore they had it figured out. And Liv? She just smiled and said nothing. Until now. Because Liv Morgan, the 2026 Women's Royal Rumble winner, one of WWE's most polarizing, most talked about, most misunderstood superstars, has finally broken her silence on one of the biggest pieces of speculation that has followed her for nearly 7 years. And what she said is going to make a lot of people feel very, very embarrassed. Welcome back to WrestleScope, the channel where we don't just cover wrestling, we dissect it. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button right now. This is not a video you want to miss. So here's the thing about Liv Morgan. She is one of those performers that the internet has never quite known what to do with. She's too colorful, too loud, too confident, too unfiltered. And for years, a certain section of the fan base, and frankly, some people who should know better, have been building a story about her personal life based on a wrestling angle. Yes, a wrestling angle. Cast your mind back to 2019, Monday Night Raw. There is a wedding happening on live television, because of course there is, this is WWE, between CJ Perry and Bobby Lashley. And then Liv Morgan storms down to that ring, interrupts the whole thing, and confesses her love for the bride. It was dramatic, it was chaotic, it was brilliant television. But the internet took that scripted moment and decided right then and there that it was a window into Liv Morgan's real life. And that assumption has followed her ever since, until February 26th, 2026, when she sat down with Complex and finally, calmly, laid it all out. Let's be honest with ourselves for a second. When that 2019 wedding segment aired, the internet did not treat it as fiction. People genuinely started questioning whether WWE had just accidentally revealed something real about Liv Morgan. Forums went wild, social media exploded, think pieces got written. And here's where it gets interesting. Liv never corrected it. Not once. Not a single tweet, not a single Instagram post saying, hey, that was just a storyline. Nothing. And in a world where silence equals confirmation, that silence fed the beast. The speculation grew. It became part of her mythology. Some fans actually loved it. They saw her differently. They connected to her differently. Others weaponized it. They used it as a punchline. They used it to diminish her in-ring achievements and reduce her to a rumor. What's fascinating is that when she finally spoke to Complex, she admitted she was absolutely aware of it. She said, and I'm going to paraphrase here so we don't misrepresent her words, she said she knows the internet thinks she likes women, and she does love women. She thinks women are beautiful, but romantically, that's a different thing entirely, and she just doesn't know that she's wired that way. That's a really nuanced, mature, and frankly brave thing to say out loud. She didn't slam the door. She didn't go scorch earth on the rumor. She opened a window, let some air in, and left it at that. But here's the part that I think is most telling. She acknowledged that crashing that wedding, confessing love for a woman on live television, was a big reason why it all started. And instead of being defensive or angry about it, she laughed. She said that's the magic of wrestling. That is a person who fully understands the business she is in. Now I want to pivot here because there's a second layer to this story that I think is actually more interesting than the speculation itself. Liv Morgan has apparently been sitting on a very deliberate strategy when it comes to her public image. And she just handed us the playbook. She told Complex that when something false is written about her online, anything false, her instinct is not to correct it. Her instinct is to zip it, stay silent, let people believe what they want. Now think about that for a second. In an era of social media where every celebrity, every athlete, every public figure is expected to be constantly reactive, constantly defending themselves, constantly clarifying, constantly issuing statements, Liv Morgan looked at all of that noise and chose silence. And it worked, for years, brilliantly. She also addressed the entire ecosystem of so-called WWE insiders and dirt sheet reporters. You know the type, the ones who post long threads at 2 a.m. saying, I've been told by a source close to the situation that Liv's being buried, or creative has given up on her. Liv had something to say about that too. She said, and again I'm paraphrasing, she said sometimes the narratives people build online are just completely, spectacularly wrong. And she'll giggle about it because she knows the truth. She knows what's actually happening backstage, and she has absolutely no intention of correcting the record. She said, I'm not going to confirm or deny anything. Have your narrative. I don't care what your narrative is. Let that sink in. This is a woman who won the Women's Royal Rumble in 2026, who has been Women's World Champion, who has main evented major shows, who has survived more online pylons than arguably any other woman in WWE today. And she has done it by refusing to play the game that everyone else is playing. That is not just a wrestling strategy, that is a life strategy. Here's where I want to challenge you, and maybe challenge WWE a little bit too. The 2019 wedding angle was written by WWE, the confession of love was scripted, the whole thing was produced television. But the fallout, the years of speculation about Liv Morgan's real personal life, that was not something WWE ever addressed. They lit the match and they walked away. Liv had to carry that weight on her own. She had to navigate fans who blurred the line between a character she was playing and the actual human being she is. She had to decide every single day whether to correct it, ignore it, or embrace it. And the fact that it took nearly 7 years for her to address it publicly tells you everything about how messy and personal this kind of speculation can get. Now here's my unique angle on all of this, and I want your thoughts in the comments. WWE has done this before. They have used ambiguous or boundary-pushing storylines involving their talent's identity, and then left those performers to deal with the real-world consequences entirely alone. The fictional world bleeds into the real world, and the superstar, not the company, pays the price. Liv handled it with more grace and more intelligence than most people would, but we should at least acknowledge that she was put in an unfair position. She had to laugh off speculation about who she is as a person because a television she worked on 7 years ago made a creative decision. That is not a small thing. But let's end this where Liv herself seems to want to end it, in a place of power. Because whatever people have said about Liv Morgan online, whatever rumors have swirled, whatever narratives the dirt sheets have pushed, she is standing taller right now than at any other point in her career. She won the 2026 Women's Royal Rumble. She's one of the most talked about performers in the entire company. She's got a merchandise line that actually moves. She's doing major media interviews. She's relevant in a way that a lot of people, including some of the very same people who spent years writing hit pieces and speculation threads about her, never believed she would be. The girl they said couldn't wrestle, the girl they turned into a punchline, the girl they assigned a narrative to without ever asking her a single question. That girl just won the Royal Rumble and laughed at every single one of them. And when she finally sat down and addressed the speculation, she didn't cry, she didn't get angry, she didn't point fingers. She said, that's the magic of wrestling. I did confess my love for a woman. I get why people thought what they thought. But here's the reality, and I'm still not going to confirm or deny anything else, because it's none of your business and I am having way too much fun to care. If that is not the most Liv Morgan thing I have ever heard, I don't know what is. So here's the question I'm leaving you with today, and I genuinely want to see this debate in the comments below. Is WWE responsible when their storylines create real-world speculation about their performers' personal lives, or is that just part of the business? And do you think Liv Morgan's strategy, staying silent, not correcting the record, letting people have their narratives, is genius, or is it something that quietly cost her more than we realize? Let me know, get in the comments, fight it out. I read every single one. If you want more WrestleScope deep dives like this, the stuff that goes beyond the headlines and actually asks the harder questions, smash that like button. It helps us more than you know. Subscribe if you haven't already, because we are not slowing down. More videos are dropping this week and you do not want to miss them. Share this one with someone who thinks they know everything about Liv Morgan. Let's see how that conversation goes. I'm out. I'll see you in the next one.